All right, get this. You guys sent us a ton of stuff about the teachings of Muhammad and wow, how they're still relevant today.
Yeah.
It's crazy. We're talking AI chats, whispers, and sacred text insights from some seriously big thinkers.
Hey, ChatGPT, as an AI, you don't have emotions, but if you did, what would your love for Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, stem from, and why would it be significant in our modern world?
If I were capable of love, it would stem from the profound impact Muhammad's, peace be upon him, teachings have on many lives. His messages of compassion, justice, and resilience resonate deeply with the challenges people face today. His emphasis on social justice encourages empathy and support for the marginalized, which is essential in a world often marked by division. Celebrating his teachings could inspire individuals to cultivate kindness and promote peace, creating a more harmonious global community. This significance is crucial, especially when many seek guidance in navigating contemporary complexities.
Thanks. So, in what ways do you think Muhammad's, peace be upon him, teachings can bridge the gap between different cultures and religions, fostering understanding and respect among diverse communities?
Cleophee, Muhammad's, peace be upon him, teachings advocate for respect and compassion toward all individuals, regardless of their backgrounds. By emphasizing dialogue and shared human values, his principles can encourage mutual understanding and cooperation among diverse communities. The call for empathy and social responsibility invites people to engage with one another, fostering a sense of unity. This bridging of gaps is vital in today's interconnected world, where appreciating diversity can lead to collaborative solutions for common challenges.
Awesome. So, if you could share one lesson from Muhammad's, peace be upon him, life that could inspire modern leaders, what would it be, and how could this lesson be applied to today's world?
Cleophee, one powerful lesson from Muhammad's, peace be upon him, life is his commitment to justice and integrity, even in the face of adversity. This principle is vital for modern leaders, who must navigate complex ethical challenges. By prioritizing justice and being transparent in their actions, leaders can build trust and loyalty within their communities. This commitment can foster a culture of accountability and inspire others to act with integrity, ultimately leading to a more equitable and just society amidst contemporary challenges.
All right, get this. You guys sent us a ton of stuff about the teachings of Muhammad and wow, how they're still relevant today.
Yeah.
It's crazy. We're talking AI chats, whispers, and sacred text insights from some seriously big thinkers. It's wild. Get ready for some aha moments, because what we found is seriously mind-blowing.
It is really striking, how all of these different sources kind of come together to tell this one big story about Muhammad's legacy. I mean, not just within Islam, but across cultures and across history.
Yeah, and it's about values that go way beyond just religion and still resonate today, even with everything going on. So to kind of kick things off, we started with this conversation between this YouTuber Cleophee and ChatGPT about respecting the teachings of Muhammad.
Right.
And ChatGPT, being AI, it doesn't have emotions or anything, but its insights are surprisingly deep.
It is remarkable, isn't it?
Yeah.
When Cleophee asked about how these teachings are relevant today, ChatGPT immediately went to compassion, justice, and resilience. And what I thought was so fascinating is that it didn't just list those virtues. It connected them to specific stories from Muhammad's life.
Oh, I love that. When the details just click like that.
Exactly.
Tell me more. What examples did it give?
Well, for compassion, ChatGPT talked about the way Muhammad treated prisoners of war.
Okay.
Instead of advocating for harsh punishments or anything, he insisted on humane treatment.
Yeah.
Even offering his own cloak to a prisoner who was shivering.
Wow. That's such a powerful image. It's such a contrast to all the brutality that was normal during war back then.
Oh, yeah.
It really shows the depth of his compassion.
It really does. And then for justice of the day, ChatGPT brought up this story about a woman who was wrongly accused of stealing something.
Oh, no.
And even though society was pressuring him to punish her, but Muhammad insisted on a fair investigation.
Right.
And, in the end, her name was cleared.
And
he even went a step further and made sure she was compensated for being falsely accused.
So he wasn't just talking about justice in theory. He was actually sticking up for the vulnerable.
Yeah.
Even when it meant going against what everyone else thought.
Absolutely.
That says a lot.
Yeah. And then for resilience, ChatGPT focused on Muhammad's perseverance when he was being persecuted in those early years of preaching.
Oh, yeah, when no one was listening to him.
Right. He faced so much ridicule threats, even violence, but he never, backed down from his message of peace and unity.
His commitment is really inspiring. It makes you think about the power of resilience, not just for yourself, but for society as a whole.
Yeah.
It's like ChatGPT is giving us a blueprint for how to face challenges with integrity and purpose, even when everything seems stacked against you.
I think that's what's so compelling about this AI perspective. It's like this non-human thing without any emotions or biases is honing in on the power of these principles.
Okay, you're seriously making me rethink what I thought about AI. But Cleophee didn't stop there. She asked ChatGPT how these teachings could actually help bridge the divides in our world today,
Right.
Especially between different cultures and religions.
Yeah. It's amazing how ChatGPT, in its own way, emphasized dialogue, shared values, and empathy. And it suggested that focusing on common ground, the idea that every human being has dignity and the importance of things like justice and compassion could help us overcome our differences and actually understand each other.
It's so simple, right? Why do we make things so complicated when we all have these basic values to connect us?
I know, it's so refreshing, isn't it?
Yeah,
Just cutting through all the noise and reminding us about the power of empathy.
Okay, so then Cleophee asked the big question.
Uh-oh.
She asked ChatGPT to choose just one lesson from Muhammad's life that could inspire leaders today.
Oh, wow.
And you know what it picked? His unwavering commitment to justice and integrity.
Oh, wow.
Even when he was under so much pressure.
That's huge.
Right.
ChatGPT even said that putting justice and transparency first is the key to building trust and inspiring other people to act with integrity, and that's how we create a more just and equitable society.
When you say it that, it's almost like ChatGPT is giving us a roadmap for better leadership today.
Yeah.
It's so fascinating that an AI, after analyzing all this data, landed on those principles as crucial for making real positive change. But wait, it gets even more interesting.
Yeah, it's not just AI, right?
Right.
What's really wild is how Muhammad and his message are acknowledged in other sacred texts, too. You might be surprised to hear that you can find echoes of his teaching to the Bible, Hindu texts, even writings from the Baha'i faith.
Wait, really? So we're not just talking about Islamic interpretations here, but a broader recognition of his wisdom across different religions.
Exactly. And it suggests something really amazing. The wisdom of his message seems to transcend any one religion. It speaks to this shared human experience, this yearning for justice, peace, and spiritual understanding.
Okay, now I'm really intrigued. What kind of references are we talking about here?
Well, for example, some scholars point to potential references to Muhammad, or at least prophetic figures like him in the book of Isaiah in the Bible.
Wow. That's fascinating. You wouldn't expect that kind of connection between those two faiths, with all their history.
Right, and then you have Hindu texts like the Puranas that talk about prophets or avatars who sound a lot like Muhammad's message of monotheism and social reform.
So it's not just about direct references, but these themes that overlap and point to this shared spiritual lineage.
Exactly. And in the Baha'i faith, Muhammad is recognized as one of a line of divine messengers alongside figures like Jesus and Buddha. They all contribute to the gradual revelation of God's will.
That's beautiful. This idea that there's this one thread of divine wisdom woven through all these different faiths and cultures, it really challenges that whole idea of one religion being the only right one.
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
And it highlights how these teachings, even though they started in a specific context, have this universal quality that goes beyond any one culture or time period.
Now, while we're talking about influential figures, our sources pointed out some quotes from some pretty big names in history who were clearly inspired by Muhammad.
Oh, yeah.
Like Mahatma Gandhi, Thomas Carlyle, Leo Tolstoy. They all expressed deep admiration for him.
They did.
Gandhi even said, "I cannot conceive of a greater man than Muhammad."
He was really impressed by Muhammad's dedication to justice and his commitment to nonviolence. He saw a lot of parallels with his own philosophy of satyagraha.
And Thomas Carlyle, who was a big-time historian and philosopher from Scotland, he praised Muhammad's leadership and moral character in his book on heroes, hero worship, and the heroic in history.
Yeah, Carlyle saw Muhammad as a true reformer, a man of courage and conviction who led this movement that changed the world. He even called him the hero prophet, recognizing his ability to inspire and unite people.
It's really interesting how someone like Carlyle, who wasn't Muslim himself, could see the impact of Muhammad's leadership.
Yeah. And then you have Leo Tolstoy, the famous Russian novelist.
Right.
He was so moved by Muhammad's moral integrity and his desire to, like, uplift humanity.
It's incredible to see how all these different thinkers with their own unique worldviews all respected Muhammad. What do you think it was about his teachings that drew them in?
I think it was the combination of his spiritual depth, his commitment to social justice, and his constant pursuit of truth that resonated with them. They saw in him a model for leadership, a beacon of hope for a more just and compassionate world.
So we've seen that Muhammad's teachings had this huge impact, historically influencing people across cultures and time. But you might be thinking, okay, this is all interesting history, but what about now? How do these ancient teachings apply to our modern world? Well, that's where our sources really dig deep.
Right. They go into this connection between Muhammad's teachings and Sharia law, which is such a complex and often misunderstood concept.
Now, when we talk about Sharia law, it's important to remember that it's not just like a set of rules written in stone.
Right.
It's more like a framework based on the Quran and Hadith, the records of Muhammad's sayings and actions that guides Muslims on how to live a just and ethical life.
Right.
And even within that framework, there are different interpretations and schools of thought.
Yeah, the sources really emphasize that the Quran and Hadith are the foundation for Sharia law. And these texts offer guidelines on so many things, like how to worship, how to behave, how to interact with others, and even legal rulings.
Wow.
And it's all aimed at promoting justice, fairness, and ethical behavior.
So it's not just about external rules, but like building this inner compass guided by these principles.
Exactly.
And these teachings influence how people in Islamic societies understand and apply justice, fairness, and ethics.
Yeah.
It's about trying to live by these principles in every part of life, not just following rules. But it's not just about laws and social structures. Our sources also connect Muhammad's teachings to modern concerns like human rights, social justice, interfaith relations, and even environmentalism.
It's amazing how they highlight this idea that Muhammad's message is still relevant and can speak to the challenges we face today.
But it's not all easy, right? I mean, trying to apply teachings from the 7th century to the complexities of the 21st century has got to have some bumps along the way.
Oh, for sure. The sources are very honest about the challenges of integrating these ancient teachings into our modern legal systems and societies.
Yeah. I mean, we're talking about a world with so many different values, interpretations of Islamic law, and even potential human rights concerns.
Yeah, it's a complicated discussion. And the sources acknowledge these complexities. There's just so much to think about, from political and economic factors to just the simple fact that we live in a completely different world than the one Muhammad lived in.
Right. But the sources also emphasize the importance of adapting and applying these teachings to the specific context.
Right.
They talk about the need for flexible interpretation, recognizing that just blindly copying ancient rules into modern situations can have unexpected consequences.
Exactly. It's about finding that balance between honoring the core principles of Muhammad's teachings while also addressing the specific needs and challenges of our time.
And finding that balance requires thoughtful consideration, open dialogue, and a willingness to really think critically right.
For sure. It's a process that's always evolving, not something fixed.
So it's clear that Muhammad's teachings offer this rich source of wisdom that can inform how we live together, how we treat each other, and how we work towards a more just and compassionate world.
Absolutely. But there are also real complexities to think about when applying those teachings in the 21st century. Navigating those complexities takes open minds, a willingness to engage with different perspectives, and a commitment to finding solutions that honor the spirit of these teachings while addressing the realities of today's world.
And I feel like there's still so much more to unpack here.
Oh, definitely.
What other insights do our sources offer about the impact and legacy of Muhammad's teachings in this crazy, ever-changing world we live in?
Well, it's fascinating to see how these complexities actually play out in different areas. Like, for example, when we look at human rights, there can be tension between some traditional interpretations of Sharia law and modern ideas about gender equality or the rights of LGBTQ plus individuals.
That's a really important point, and the sources definitely don't shy away from it. They acknowledge that some cultural practices, which people sometimes wrongly attribute to religious mandates, can clash with modern human rights standards.
Right, and it raises this really big question. How do we reconcile these seemingly conflicting ideas while still staying true to the spirit of the teachings?
Well, the sources seem to suggest that education and awareness are key. They argue that a deeper understanding of Muhammad's teachings within their historical context, can help clear up misconceptions and lead to more nuanced interpretations.
That makes a lot of sense. It's easy to misinterpret or misapply teachings if you don't really understand where they came from and what they were meant for. It's like trying to understand a Shakespearean sonnet without knowing anything about Elizabethan England.
I love that analogy. It shows how important context is. And on top of that, the sources emphasize that Muhammad himself was a huge advocate for knowledge and critical thinking. So it seems fitting to apply those principles to the study of his own teachings, don't you think?
Absolutely. It's about engaging with these teachings in a thoughtful and informed way, recognizing that there's room for different perspectives and interpretations. And this idea of different interpretations is something the sources really highlight, especially when it comes to Sharia law.
Oh, yeah. It's important to remember that Islamic jurisprudence isn't just one thing. There are all these different schools of thought, each with its own way of interpreting and applying Islamic law.
Exactly. So there's not necessarily one right answer when it comes to understanding how these teachings apply to modern legal systems.
Which is kind of cool, right?
Yeah.
It shows that these teachings aren't meant to be static or rigid. They're meant to be engaged with, questioned, debated. It's a living tradition.
It is, and that process of critical engagement can lead to new insights and more relevant ways of applying these principles to our constantly changing world. It's about keeping the spirit of the teachings alive while adapting to new realities.
So we've talked about the challenges and the importance of interpretation, but what about the positive aspects of applying Muhammad's teachings today? The sources gave some really inspiring examples, especially when it comes to social justice.
Yeah, they talk about how Muhammad's emphasis on community welfare and social responsibility really resonates with today's efforts to fight poverty, inequality, and injustice. His teachings on charity and helping those in need are incredibly relevant in a world that's dealing with all these global challenges.
It's like he laid out a plan for a more equitable society centuries ago, and we're still trying to make that vision a reality. And it's not just about financial support either. Muhammad also really emphasized treating everyone with respect and dignity regardless of their background or beliefs.
Yeah, that connects so well with his teachings on interfaith relations. The sources mention how Muhammad's interactions with people from different religious communities set an example for peaceful coexistence and dialogue.
Those are values we seriously need in our increasingly polarized world. Building bridges of understanding and respect between different religions and cultures is more important now than ever.
Couldn't agree more. And it's so encouraging to see how Muhammad's teachings can help guide us in that direction. Speaking of guidance, I think it's really interesting how the sources connect Muhammad's focus on resilience to the struggles we face today.
Oh, absolutely. His own life was full of challenges and setbacks, but he never gave up. He kept going, and in the end, he achieved amazing things.
Yeah.
It's a powerful reminder that we all have the ability to overcome adversity.
And that spirit of resilience, of facing hardship with courage and determination, is incredibly inspiring, especially when it's so easy to feel overwhelmed by negativity.
Muhammad's teachings remind us that even in the darkest times, there's always hope and the possibility for positive change. It's not about ignoring the problems, but about facing them head-on with determination.
And that change often starts with ourselves. The sources really emphasize that Muhammad encouraged self-reflection and personal growth. He believed that every person has the potential to make a difference in the world.
It's about recognizing our own agency. Our ability to choose kindness, compassion, and justice in our everyday lives.
And it's about making sure our actions match up with our intentions. The sources highlight how important sincerity and pure motives are in Islamic teachings.
It's not just about going through the motions, right?
Right.
It's about having a real desire to do good and to live according to these principles.
Muhammad stressed that our actions should be driven by a sincere desire to please God and to make the world a better place. And that focus on inner purity can have this ripple effect influencing not only our own lives, but the lives of people around us.
It's a beautiful reminder that real change often starts from within. Our intentions shape our actions, and our actions, however small they may seem, can have a huge impact on the world. So we've covered a lot, haven't we? We've explored the challenges of applying ancient teachings to modern times, the enduring relevance of Muhammad's message, and the importance of individual transformation.
Yeah, we've seen how these teachings can inspire us to be better people, to work for a more just and fair society, and to approach challenges with resilience and hope.
We've looked at the complexities of applying these teachings in the 21st century, recognizing that it's an ongoing process that requires thoughtfulness, open discussion, and a willingness to adapt.
And maybe most importantly, we've been reminded that these teachings aren't just ancient words. They offer timeless wisdom that can guide us in navigating the complexities of our world and becoming the best versions of ourselves.
And that's what makes this deep dive so powerful. It's not just about learning new things. It's about sparking a change within us and inspiring us to make the world a better place.
So as you go about your day, think about this. How can you embody the principles of compassion, justice, and resilience in your own life? How can you be a force for good, even in small ways, in your community and in the world? It's a question worth thinking about, and I think the answers might surprise you.
You know, as we've been going through all this stuff, one thing that keeps coming up is like this idea that everything's connected.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if that applies to like how Muhammad's teachings address our relationship with nature. Is there anything in the sources about environmentalism?
Well, that's a really interesting point. It's easy to forget that teachings from so long ago could have something to say about our environmental problems today. But you're right, there is a connection. The sources actually talk about how Muhammad's teachings really emphasize respecting and taking care of the natural world.
That's amazing. What kind of examples did you find?
Well, there's this hadith where Muhammad specifically says you can't cut down trees in the desert. He understood how important they were to the whole ecosystem. Even in that harsh environment, those trees were essential for the balance of life.
So it wasn't just about protecting people, but about recognizing that we're all part of this bigger web of life.
Exactly. And it goes even further. The sources also mention how he encouraged planting trees and conserving water, which are super relevant today as we deal with climate change and running out of resources.
It's like he was way ahead of his time in seeing how connected humanity and nature really are.
It's a good reminder that these teachings have wisdom that can help us face even the toughest challenges today. It's not just about saving the planet for the future. It's about understanding that our own well-being depends on a healthy natural world.
You know, thinking back on all this, one thing that really sticks with me is how much emphasis there is on the individual's responsibility to make the world a better place.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's not just about following the rules or some legal code. It's about developing certain qualities within ourselves.
Like compassion, justice, integrity, resilience. Those seem to be at the core of his message.
Exactly. And those qualities, along with the commitment to learning and taking action, have the power to change not just our own lives, but the communities and the world around us.
It's a message that makes you feel like you can actually do something. We're not just pawns of fate. We have a role in shaping our own destiny and the destiny of the world.
It's a hopeful message, for sure. It tells us that even when things are really tough, we each have the power to make a positive difference, and that even small acts of kindness, justice, and compassion can spread out and create a better and more just world.
So as we wrap up this amazing deep dive, let's go over what we've learned. We explored the huge impact and lasting relevance of Muhammad's teachings, not just in Islam, but across different cultures and throughout history.
We've seen that these teachings can inspire us to be better people, to strive for a more just and fair society, and to face difficulties with resilience and hope.
We went deep into what it means to apply these teachings in the 21st century, recognizing that it's an ongoing process that takes careful thought, open conversation, and a willingness to adjust.
And maybe most importantly, we've been reminded that these teachings aren't just ancient words. They offer this timeless wisdom that can help us deal with the complexities of our modern world and become the best versions of ourselves.
That's what makes this deep dive so powerful. It's not just about gaining knowledge. It's about sparking a change within us and encouraging us to contribute to a better world.
Absolutely.
And on that note, we'll wrap things up here. Thanks for joining us on this incredible journey into the world of Muhammad's teachings.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for joining us for today's podcast. I hope you've gained some valuable insights. If you're a truth seeker, yearning for divine light and ready to step out of darkness, now is your moment. The truth is that Allah is the one and only creator of the universe. He has sent over 124,000 messengers and prophets to guide humanity, starting with Adam and culminating with the final messenger, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon them all. If you resonate with this message, you might be ready to embrace Islam. Simply recite the Shahada, the Islamic declaration of faith. For further support, feel free to join our WhatsApp group. You can send us a private message there. The link is in the video description. Don't wait until it's too late. We look forward to connecting with you soon.